Majo, John, Madden, Juanito in Asheville, North Carolina. Sitting outside my rehab center where I have been a resident for over 2 weeks now. And I want to make a talk about understanding the story of your life and seeing yourself in your bigness, as big a person as you are meant to be, as you actually are. Now, I've been back in Asheville for a month now from Mexico, where I was living for 2 years. I'd been gone from Asheville for 4 years, 5 years actually. I moved to Asheville in '04 in a desperate attempt to reinvent my life because living in Chicago, I was planning my suicide. Very seriously planning it. And made a desperate attempt to reinvent myself by coming to Asheville in '04. Almost didn't make it, but did make it enough. I still was suffering from the wrongful diagnosis of bipolar disorder, still taking horrible drugs. But for 16 years, I created a life for myself in this town, Asheville, North Carolina. Amazing melting pot of artists and creative souls. An awful lot of people who, like me, have come here to reinvent themselves. This time I came back from Mexico because I got hit by a 2x4 physical reversal, renal failure, and diagnosis of terminal cancer, which turned out to be possibly erroneous. There's no good evidence that it's terminal right now. So the last 3 months have been tough. It's been a very different time for me after living out my best life in the Riviera Maya of Mexico. Bacalar, this hat, my favorite spot in the Riviera Maya, which is famous for Cancun and Playa del Carmen. Bacalar is 4 hours south of there. No airports, no cruise ships, and very, very sweet. But it was in Bacalar on March 3rd that I got hit with renal failure and got set back after living the life of my dreams. Big. Now, trouble walking. I'm walking pretty good, but my balance is off, and have 3 possible cancers that we're studying and looking at. At 78, I had been 3 months ago an extraordinarily vital 78-year-old, dancing in my apartment for an hour a day, walking a couple, 3 hours, swimming in the Caribbean. But now I have a tiny little postage stamp of where I'm allowed to walk here as a patient in the rehab center, which is a nursing home. It's at least as much a nursing home as the rehab center. And I just went down to the physical therapy and said, anybody else I had gone for a walk. Physical therapists can take me out walking lots of places. But I'm on nobody's dance card for this afternoon, so it's up to me to get freedom. And so one title of this talk is How to Claim Your Bigness When It's Not Obvious. And one way I'm going to do that today is by talking about my connection with John Denver, who lots of you will know that name. Very few of you will know the name Herb Hamsher. Some of you may know the WinStar Foundation, which was John Denver's ecological wing foundation he created in Colorado, and which my old faculty member, Herb Hamsher, steered for several years. Now, how do I know Herb Hamsher? I did clinical psychology training starting in 1969 at the University of Rochester, upstate New York, which at that point was named number 1 or number 2 for clinical psychology in the country. And I had the grade point and other stuff to get me in. Herb Hamsher interviewed me over the phone from Chicago, where I was. I never went to campus. And I was awful impressed by the creative stuff Herb and another guy, Jay Efron, were doing around psychotherapy. And he liked my spirit. Well, when I got to Rochester, I discovered that he and I were both misfits there. He was junior faculty, and he and Jay Efron, the other guy that I really admired, were both forced out by the powers that be within my first year there. It was traditional psychology, behaviorism, and psychoanalysis, and not a lot of welcoming for creative, interesting, human potential oriented models of psychotherapy. I went there thinking clinical psychology. I liked this. I had taken a year off from after college and worked in a mental health center, and I liked the psychologist. I did not like the psychiatrist. The reason I took a year off was I was accepted to medical school. I was going to be a psychiatrist, and pulled up just in time on that. That would have been a total disaster. But I thought, PhD clinical psychology, these guys must be amazing people. No, they weren't. They were competitive, publish or perish academics. But Herb Hamsher gave me, he saw who I was. And be grateful for those people who see who you are, who in any way encourage you to go big, see you as bigger than your current situation. And Herb said one of the greatest things ever got said to me. I had on my desk there's only 10 of us in our clinical psychology class. On my desk, I had the book, The Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test. Ken Keyes, who wrote the book, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, he and a group he called the Merry Pranksters, based out of San Francisco, would follow the Grateful Dead around from concert to concert and do as much acid as they could in the course of the concert to see how high they could go. It was like the anthem of the age of the 70s, late 60s, early 70s, of the counterculture. Let's see how far we can take it out of the conformism of the 50s and early 60s. Herb saw that book on my desk, and Herb was at that point experimenting with new models of psychotherapy, but he was a very closeted gay man in a very frustrating marriage to a woman. And I was also trying hard to be married to a woman who was not good for me, very much like my mother. We were both trying so desperately to get out of where we were stuck. But Herb looked at that book on my desk and said, John, there are some books that some people just should not read. And it was a backhanded compliment. It was his way of saying, you're pushing the margin every way but Sunday already. This is going to take you into territory that's going to get too dangerous for you. But I got the compliment in it. And he went on not only to leave that mainstream university, not only to leave that marriage, but he had an incredible career where he produced movies in Hollywood. He was the director of John Denver's WinStar Foundation at the end. And his obituary, which I found today on legacy.com, referred to his husband of 35 years. So God bless you, Herb Hamsher. God bless you. And where the whole thing, I'll start with why John Denver today. My black nurse, Missy, who's very sharp, 40-ish woman, I was shooting a video about something when she came in and she says, I'll fill up your coffee. And I said, you fill up my senses. And when she came back, I crooned John Denver's song, You Fill Up My Senses, like a night in the forest. And I said, I'm sorry, you're black. You're not going to recognize this very white music. But it turns out, she says, I was a child of the 70s. Maybe she's older than I thought. She says, I knew John Denver. She didn't know that song. But it all weaves together. And we are bigger than we know. And God bless those people who see it, send a signal, even if it's a backhanded compliment. my connection to John Denver, one relationship removed, and still a hippie. Still a hippie. When I was a corporate consultant at AT&T, I read a book about all the old political activists, the student left, who went on to put on business suits and go into corporations to try to change it from within, which is what I did there. And I've still got it. I've still got the soul of a rebel. And even though I have been set back on my heels by renal failure and possible cancers and living a postage stamp life for the next few days anyway at the rehab center, certain things remind me of who I am. And it's my job to remind myself of who I am. And it's our job to remind each other. So when I crooned to Missy, "You Fill Up My Senses," she went into a whole Broadway number out in the hall singing back to me. So we can sing each other into our true bigness. All right. Thank you.